Thurman, was this one of the hardest prosecutions you've had in your career as far as time and effort putting into this? And if you could just give us a brief understanding of what you've been through to prosecute this case.
Well, it was. It's one of the longest cases. It's longer than some death penalty cases I've tried, and it's very contentious. A lot of pleadings filed that we felt were inappropriate. A lot of hard-fought issues, a lot of motions continuing to come all the time. So there's more paper probably in this case than I've ever seen, even in a death penalty case. But so it was a very difficult case to deal with over the long period of time we had to deal with it.
How do you keep emotion out of this when you're up there prosecuting a case like this?
Well, I don't think you do keep emotion out of it. If you're a good prosecutor, you're going to have emotion. You build a special bond with the victim. You feel what they've gone through. You see what they're going through in the system. So you obviously have emotion when you prosecute the case.
Does this set any type of precedent for the rape shield laws? I know with the motions that were filed that were supposed to be under seal, a lot of her private information got out, and that was a big fight for you all. Talk about where victims' rights and protections stand at this point after this case.
Well, there was some information that was leaked to the press. It shouldn't have been. It was not properly filed. Attack on our victim. That was part of what she had to deal with. And we're hoping in the future that will not happen again. It wasn't the court's fault. And I think he took steps after that to remedy this happening, but and I hope it doesn't discourage people from coming forward who've been sexually violated thinking that this is a norm, because it was not the norm. They are protected by the law, and we hope in the future they will always be protected.
This has changed a lot of lives.
It's changed a lot of lives. I mean, the decisions made that June the 23rd of 2013 changed a lot of lives. It's a very tough situation. You saw young men throw away very promising careers, going to a fine university. You saw a victim that's gone through very traumatic times as a result of it. You've seen families who've seen their sons have to go to prison. You've seen the mother of the victim having to work through this with her. So yeah, there's in a case like this, there's so many lives that are affected by these actions of these two young men.
Did you feel like the verdicts will send a message, or do you think it might have an impact on this, on these instances of conscious?
Well, I think just the whole conversation about the type of case that this was and the publicity it did get, and I think we're already seeing that there's some movement here locally, and I hope nationally, to address this issue. I mean, it's not like it's a new issue and it hadn't been on the back burner. I think there's a lot of schools starting to address these kind of things, and obviously it's not just a problem that happened at Vanderbilt. I think it's going on all across the country in certain situations, and I think it is going to open up a dialogue a little bit more for discussion among schools and among people about what's going on college campuses now.
Did you talk to the victim after the verdict was read? And if so, what did you tell her? If you did not get a chance to talk to her, what will you say to her?
I haven't got a chance to talk to her yet. Obviously, we talked to her prior to the verdict coming in at length, and we will go down, I'm sure, share a few hugs, and she'll be crying. She has a lot, and it's very emotional for her, but we haven't had a chance to talk to her yet. We got to talk to the jurors, and we'll be talking to the victim shortly as soon as we get through here.
General Thurman, I heard someone tell me this could be your last case. Is this your last case?
Is that my wife? I don't know.
Yes.
I haven't.
Is it your last case?
I haven't made that decision yet. It could very well be. I'm going to take off for a couple of weeks and go someplace a little warmer and sit around and think about what I'm going to do. So, but I can't say right now.
From your wife.
Okay.
How confident were you on all charges, on the fact that you got conviction on all of them?
Well, the jury did not on one count. They didn't convict of aggravated rape. They attempted, and that was a vaginal penetration that there wasn't really a photo or a video of. But obviously, we felt confident in our case when we went forward with it.
Was there ever a talk of a plea in this case so we would not go to trial ever?
Not any real serious conversations, no.
General, there was a lot of talk in the trial about the other two young men not being at that defendant's table with the other two defendants. Were you ever concerned that the jury might say, where are the other two young men in all of this?
Well, they were obviously in the charge. The judge tells them they're not supposed to consider that. Now, obviously, Mr. McKenzie testified, so they were able to consider that he'd been severed out and cooperated as a witness. But the law is they're not supposed to consider what's going on with the other co-defendants. Obviously, their trials haven't been set yet, and that'll be done sometime fairly soon,
Will
I
you
think.
consider plea deals for those two young men?
We'll talk to their attorneys. Like I say, Mr. McKenzie has obviously come forward and cooperated and had limited involvement in this. All of what I wouldn't say it's not serious. So it's very serious involvement. But as far as the four defendants, I would say he was probably the least culpable. But we'll deal with that somewhere down the line. I can't really comment on Mr. Banks because his case is still pending also.
Being that Mr. Banks had such culpability, could you foresee another trial of this magnitude for him alone?
Well, that's possible. Like I say, we can't really discuss plea negotiations. That's a pending case. We'll deal with that sometime later. His case will be docketed again for us to discuss where it's going to go in the future, but we can't really discuss any plea negotiations.
How much of a game changer was the video?
I'd say a big one. It's hard for anyone to watch that video and not be a game changer. So.
General, there was a lot of talk about the culture that was established at Vanderbilt University and the effect that had on Cory Batey's actions. When you addressed that argument in court, as you did repeatedly, what's going through your mind? Did you think this is ridiculous, or how did you defend that claim?
Well, really, there was a lot of talking about it, but there's very little evidence about it. It's not a defense. Didn't make much sense as a defense to me. These kind of actions, I don't know how culture can be blamed for someone raping, assaulting, and urinating on a victim who's unconscious. I mean, I didn't think it merited much consideration by the jury.
Talk about the courage of victims cooperating and going forward with this entire process. Couldn't have been easy.
Well, she showed tremendous courage with what she went through, especially some of the motions that were filed in this particular case. And some of the things that were done early on in investigation, I don't really go into, but she showed tremendous courage in staying with the case and not giving up, even though it got continued twice. And it was delayed numerous times with motions, but I think she now feels it was all worth it, and she finally got justice.
I feel like it's true justice, the fact that she's able to go on with her life. Obviously, it can't be easy, but the fact that she's moving forward and is a successful student getting her PhD, and that someone in the future, the defendants are going to go in jail.
Well, I wouldn't quite understand the question, but...
Well, I mean, do you feel like that's the true justice, that she's able to move forward and...
Yeah, I think this verdict will obviously help her move forward with her career.
One more question. You said in the court this was a culture of football players who didn't think they had to follow the rules. Is that something that needs to be addressed, you think, in college campuses, in athletics?
Well, I'm not going to paint all athletes in college with some kind of broad brush. That applied to these individuals, not every athlete. There's a lot of, and I dealt with several in this particular case, there are a lot of great student athletes that don't participate in this kind of stuff. So, I don't think it's fair to say, it's that big of a problem, but there are athletes that I think, as I said, have been pampered through their high school careers and recruited on college campuses, and I think they do think that they're special, and sometimes they can get away with things that non-athletes can't.
General, you said in your closing arguments, this is a victim, not an alleged victim. What statement do you hope this verdict makes to victims out there of sexual violence?
Well, I hope it makes a statement that if you come forward, that you'll be supported and the case will be prosecuted. And we'll stand behind you 100%, and you'll have the support that you need to seek justice in the case.
What about the others, that the roommate, the other players, where there was at least some evidence that something very bad had happening or to this woman, and no one reported it? Have you ever had a case like that where you had so many bystanders who failed to intervene?
Well, I don't think there were a lot of people that had an opportunity to intervene in this particular case that knew what was going on. Some people got information afterwards, but they were commenting on that. But they pass a woman. What's she going to do with 4 big football players carrying somebody down the hall? Yeah, she could have called somebody, I guess, but I'm sure it was passed off. She's just drunk. We're helping her to a room, whatever. It's, I guess, just a college campus where they didn't feel it was necessary. But now I don't think anybody saw any crime being committed at the time against her that they didn't report.